yet we want to look at Jesus and say, Jesus, I love you, but I love my sin more. You see, the proof that we have to understand about our foundation is Jesus made it very simple. He put it in plain words, all right? Plain English for us to hear is actually in Hebrew, and we turn it into English, but plain words for us to understand. Brian, if you will, John 14:15. John 14:15 is the simple explanation of how do we know if we truly love Jesus. Jesus said, if you love me, keep my commandments. How do I prove that I love Jesus? I keep his commandments. I obey him. That's pretty simple. That is 7 words. 7 words that can determine, again, the question all the time, am I truly saved? Do you keep his commandments? Pretty simple, 7 words right there. If you love me, keep my commandments. Jesus doesn't say, if you love me, try your best. Jesus didn't say, if you love me, do what you want and I'll understand. Jesus said, if you love me, keep my commandments. You say, Pastor, are you talking about the 10 commandments? Yeah. They also tried to trick Jesus one time and say, what's the most important? He said, love the Lord thy God with all thy heart, mind, soul, and strength. Love your neighbor as yourself. You see, here's the thing. We oftentimes get to this point where we say in our minds and in our hearts that I love Jesus. But do you? Do you truly love Jesus? Because again, Jesus compares his relationship with us as a bride. Can I tell you that most Christians in America are living a toxic relationship with Jesus? If you truly love your wife, you're going to do whatever you can to let her know that she is the only woman in your life. It's in your vows. Forsake all others. You're going to do whatever you can to provide for your home and your kids. You're going to do whatever you can to make sure that your family is protected. And if you truly love your wife, you are going to do whatever it is that you can do to make sure that they know that you love them. Then why don't we do that with Jesus? Because at the true foundation of it, a lot of Christians in America have their house built on a sand. And you say, what does that mean? What that means is they look the look, they talk the talk, but their heart isn't truly centered on Jesus. I said this a few weeks back. The gospel in America has not turned into a true gospel where we say, Christ, you are my life. Which, by the way, that's what Lord means. If you go back and look at the word Lord, Lord means ruler, king, number one. You do what they say. We have taken Jesus and we have turned him and the gospel into a I don't want to go to hell. That's simple. It's where the gospel is nowadays. This watered down gospel that we have. Look at a few scriptures. Ephesians 5:25 through 27. Husbands, love your wives even as Christ also loved the church and gave himself for it. Let me ask you this. We'll go to 26 in a second. Have you lost anything when you gain salvation? Have you lost anything when you followed Christ? Because if you say no, you might want to check the foundation. Verse number 26. That he might sanctify and cleanse it with the washing of water by the word. Christ wanted to sanctify and cleanse the church with his word. If you can sit there and tell me that you love Jesus, but you've never lost a single thing in your life. You've never lost a sin. You've never lost a relationship. You've never lost a sense of lifestyle that you put away. Then your foundation's probably on the sand. Because the Bible says, and Jesus says, if any man come after me, let him deny himself, take up his cross, and follow me. Which says you're going to have to deny yourself of the world. There's going to be things that you have to say no to. But we as the Church of America, we go back to Paul and we're like, but Paul said I die daily, which means that Paul sinned every day. No, it didn't. Paul said I get up and I die daily and I crucify the flesh because the flesh is what keeps me from Christ. And he said, I die daily to the flesh. Now, does that mean we're not going to mess up? No. That's why Paul said, should we continue in sin that grace may abound? God forbid. But if you do sin, he understood that the tempter, the enemy, is going to do whatever he can. And would we think about that for a second? Just think about that simple thing. How important is your soul that the enemy spends every hour of every day trying to ruin your relationship with Christ? And what do we do about it? We say things like the Lord's Prayer. Lead me not in temptation, but deliver me from evil. And what do? We go jumping head first into temptation. We don't need the temptation because we put ourselves in the situation. And then we go back and we go, God, I'm sorry. I'm sorry, but I'm going to go back and do this thing again. Cleanse. Romans 6:13, speaking of Paul. Now hold on here. When we talk about something that it's a bad word in the Baptist church, it's called righteousness. Neither yield ye your members as instruments of unrighteousness unto sin, but yield yourselves unto God as those that are alive from the dead, and your members as instruments of righteousness unto God. At what point does that say, I love Jesus, but? It doesn't. Paul said, yield not yourselves unto unrighteousness, but if you truly love Christ and Christ is your foundation, then you are going to live your life through his righteousness because you have none. And yet we say, but if I love Jesus, but. Romans 12:1. Back to Paul. Oh, this is a tough one. I beseech you, therefore, brethren, by the mercies of God, that ye present your bodies however you want and however you feel. And if it feels good, do it. Oh, wait, no, I misread that. Maybe my screen was different. Now, what does it say? Present your bodies a living sacrifice, holy, acceptable unto God, which is your reasonable service. Reasonable service. Let me put that in Telford terms. It's the least you can do to get sin out of your life and focus your life on Christ if you are truly saved. Once saved, Cody Day says it the best. We had this debate a while back. Cody Day says it the best. Once saved, always saved if you're saved. And unfortunately, in the Church of America today, we got too many people that have a religious look that is built on the sand of sin, and they have no foundation of Christ. Understand that when Jesus is talking about the sand and the rock, there is no middle ground. Right? We here in America, we always like to find an option C. Right? Got to tell a funny story. And it's really funny how the Lord works. So, me and Josh and Caleb are having to move a shooting house. And I'll be honest, I kind of put it on Josh. Because he said, hey man, why don't you bring the trailer and, maybe we can push it over on the trailer, this or this. And I'll be honest, I didn't really want to move the shooting house, okay? But for the good of the man that owns the property, we needed to move it. And I was also told, here it is, Josh, that I need to put in my sermon notes today that Caleb did a phenomenal job pulling and backing that trailer with Josh. And that Caleb did a phenomenal job in front of some high-pressure situations with some grown men watching a 14-year-old kid back a trailer. Did amazing. There it is, Josh. And so we get to this point and where we're talking about it. And Josh goes, well, option A, we move it right over here in them bushes right there. Or option B, we can put it on the trailer that you didn't bring, and we can put it over there by the fence row. Guess what I said? I said, or option C, we can leave it right where it is, right? I don't have to move it. We ended up with option B. Actually, they ended up with option B. I had to go see a homebound student. And so, I always seem to be busy when there's work going on, right, Mikey? Mikey sometimes calls me Blister. He says I show up after the work's done. Took her a second. She got it, though. But we always want to find an option C. We always want to find the easy way out, right? Easy way out. And guys, let's be honest. Now, I know I'm not going to be a fan favorite among the husbands after this one. I'm probably going to get a few of you guys in trouble. But even with our wives, sometimes we are met with option A or option B, and we always want to try to make option C, which is less work for us, but it's not quite what she wants us to do. Okay? Yeah, I'm getting a few amens. But here's the thing. We do the same thing with our walk with Christ. Option A, you live the way Christ has called you to live and build your foundation upon Him and His word and His commandments. Option B, you live like the world. And somewhere in the middle of that, the American church has came up with option C, which says, once in grace, always in grace. And if I say a sinner's prayer and go on back to my house, I'm okay. But understanding the scriptures, Jesus never gives us an option C. Oh, wait, actually he did. I'm sorry, I apologize. The option C is that if you're lukewarm, I'll spew you out of my mouth. That's the only time he ever mentions an option C. He says, I would rather you be hot, option A, or cold, option B. I would rather you be saved and living for me, or I would rather you not live for me at all than be option C, to where you say you live for me, but you live your life like hell and have no fruit of me. And if you do that, I'll spew you out of my mouth. Back to Matthew 7, that says, in that time, not everybody that says, Lord, Lord, is going to enter in. Christ presents option C because he knows how we are, and we're going to want option C, which is the easiest way. But didn't Jesus cover that too? Narrow is the way, and few be there that find it. And wide is the way that leads to destruction, and many will find it. If you enjoyed that message, then you'll want to check out this video. for more biblical truths. You can help spread the gospel by clicking the like button or even consider subscribing. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you at the next one.